Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Haunting Hour episode review. This one's going to be a little bit longer, just like the others, because this is one of my personal favorite episodes of the series. And this one is called Fear Never Knocks. It is an early episode in the series in season one, and it is one of the greats, for sure. One of the gems of the series, for a number of reasons. So it is one of the best episodes, and it is my personal fourth favorite episode in the series. And it's basically the story is that Grandpa George, he is kind of the main, I guess, adult in this story. He is a psychiatrist. He's been for decades, and he essentially helps people get rid of their fears. And he basically has one-on-one meetings with people who ask to see him, and he makes these meetings, and he essentially helps people get rid of their fears and helps them to not be scared anymore. And he uses an old kind of recorder, like an old ancient recording device that was prominent in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, and he uses that to help people, help his various patients. And this is going pretty well. And there are the two kids here you can see in the picture here. We got Ariel Winter and in one of her earlier roles as Jenny, and we have Quinn Lord, who is the kid right there. He's playing Jack. So Jack and Jenny are brother and sister, and they're basically being kind of babysat by their grandfather because their parents are away, and so they're being kind of mentored by him in a way. They're just kind of being watched by him for the weekend. And or well, it's not really specified how long that the parents will be gone, but it's assumed to be either a weekend or maybe a week, half a week. We don't really know. We can assume it's one of those three. But the story is pretty interesting. The big kind of story. Also, there is gonna be spoilers in in this video, of course. If you haven't seen Fear Never Knocks, do not watch this video. It's gonna basically spoil the entire episode, which again is only 22 minutes long. So you should probably watch the episode before you watch this. That way you don't get anything spoiled for you. But yeah, I just wanted to give you that warning. But the episode basically begins by the Grandpa George, as he's called. He basically is retiring, and he goes away to a big extravagant dinner party, retirement party, and he leaves Jenny and Jack alone in the house. And normally in a normal kind of show, this would be good. They would get along and they could bond and be alone for a little while. But in the haunting hour, that means trouble. I mean, that's bad, because evil forces are afoot, of course, because it's a horror, scary show. So the characters are in danger 90% of the time, with a few happy endings, I guess you could say. But this episode begins by Grandpa. He leaves the recorder in his room, and he tells Jenny, since she's the oldest, he tells her, "Don't go in there. Don't play with the recorder. Don't just don't go in there in general, because it's not a good place. It's a private place for me and my clients and his patients, I should say." And he leaves, and he's gonna be gone for a few hours. And so, of course, Jenny and Jack, being kids, they go inside the room. They pretend to, tell each other their fears, and they actually record, or Jenny presses a button, and it turns out that one of the people before, or earlier in the day, she was afraid of spiders, and a spider crawls onto Jack's shoulder, and they were kind of like weirded out by that, like, that's a little weird. And so they turn it off, and they leave. And well, before they do that, they start recording each other's fears. It turns out Jenny is afraid of this weird maniacal woman demon thing with long, scrapey fingers in the closet. And it turns out that Jack is afraid of a killer dog. So that's interesting. And it turns out that's kind of hard to explain. It turns out that the big twist being that the recording device actually is a box of fears. And so whenever you record, whenever it hears the fears of others, it manifests that fear into the real world. So say if you're afraid of heights, then you could definitely be like the next instant you could be on, I don't know, the highest place on earth. And that would be your real fear manifesting itself, which is kind of a cool idea. And it turns out that by turning on the device and by Jack and Jenny having said what their fears are, it now manifests the real fears into the house. So now there is an actual killer dog and the crazy woman with the knife fingers in the closet. So now they're both in the house and they're both trying to get them. But Jenny, being the responsible big sister she is and a great role model in the show, she is actually not as afraid, and she breathes in and out, in and out. And she tells Jack, do the same. If you keep breathing in and don't let the fear take your power, don't let it harm you. And if you do that, then you will not have as much fear with the actual fears. So the dog slowly disappears, and the woman goes up the stairs and also disappears. And so that makes those two evil monsters disappear. And it turns out that there has been a man who has been following them this entire time. In fact, he's been watching outside the house the whole time. And this man is played by Christopher Heyerdahl, who is probably one of the best actors on the entire show. He plays one of the best villains of the entire Haunting Hour, and he plays fear itself. Fear incarnate, fear himself, the manifestation of fear. And my word, is this man talented. He does everything he can to seem entirely disturbing, creepy, psychotic, a little predator-like. It's a very, very excellently phenomenal performance. In fact, I'll even show you a picture of Christopher as Fear. So that's what he looks like in the episode. So that's what he looks like. He's got the hat, the trench coat. He looks like a man you don't want to meet, which is that's kind of the point. So he plays Fear. And well, back to the episode, Fear, he goes inside the house somehow. He's able to manifest himself somehow into the house, and he corners the kids, and he basically creeps them out. He's essentially a stranger inside of these two kids' houses because, of course, Fear knows that Grandpa is away, and so now the kids have to deal with not just their own fears, but Fear himself, who has come to take the recording device actually away from them, and so he can use it for his own dark purposes. And it's very interesting. We get a lot of lore. Heyerdahl does a wonderful job of being funny, and at one point he has this really funny laugh. It's just really hilarious. There's a lot of, like, he's funny, but you're kind of laughing because you're nervous when he's on screen, because he's just really creepy, like really disturbing, but also he's a wonderful villain. Probably one of the top 5 best villains of the Haunting Hour. I really wish that we got like a sequel to this episode so we could see more of Heyerdahl as Fear. Because unfortunately, he doesn't show up in the episode until like halfway through. But which is alright. I wish he was more in it more, or they made a sequel. It would have been nice to get like another continuation of Fear, like in some way. But it's cool. And the episode basically ends with Fear not getting the box. He actually ends up getting sucked into the box because Jenny cleverly says that she is afraid of Fear itself, and that means that Fear himself now gets sucked into the box, his own box of fears. So it's a little funny how he ends up being defeated, but it turns out, as implied to the ending, I believe there's actually two endings. There's one of them where Jack goes into Jenny's room and he asks if Fear is gone, and Jenny says, "Yeah, he's gone." And he says, "Well, that's good. I can sleep now." And he says, "Good night," and he leaves. That's one of the endings. But the regular ending is when Jenny is in her bed and it's nighttime and Grandpa's back and everything, and she looks inside her closet nervously and begins to, kind of hyperventilate a bit. And it goes in, and the camera goes inside the closet, and there's a laugh that's being heard. And you don't see anything, but it's implied that Fear has escaped. Because he's, of course, the Lord of Darkness, I guess you could say, of the show. So apparently he escaped. So that's like one of the endings. That's like the most common one. But yeah, Fear is not defeated. That didn't do anything to him. So apparently that's what happened. But that's how the episode ends. And I really love it. I just love the direction of this episode. I love that we get to learn more about Grandpa George's backstory. We eventually learn that he's really a wealthy kind of man, and he's got this reputation. It's all because of the box of fears. That's essentially what's powering his career. So he's essentially a fraud. So he's not a decorated psychiatrist because of his skill. He's really just gotten all of this praise, and his career has taken off really just because of the box. So the box is the whole thing that's making his life good. And yeah, we don't get to learn too much about the box of fears, but it's kind of cool whenever it's on screen. It's like this old tiny device. It looks like something, again, you'd see out of the 60s or 70s or even 80s. So that's really cool. Jenny is a wonderful protagonist. She's one of the best in the show. She actually doesn't die. There's a lot of kids and teenagers and young adults that die in the show, and she's not one of them. She survives, which is cool, and so does Jack. That's kind of cool. They're very positive kids, and they get along very well, and it's very nice to see that dynamic. There's a great family kind of relationship between them, and it's even stronger with the grandfather. He's not on screen very much, but I appreciate the actor of the grandpa, because you can tell he's got experience. He's a very great actor, and he brings a lot of weight to the role. But the two standouts here are definitely Ariel Winter as Jenny, and she was actually in, I believe, a couple other episodes. I think she was in more. She's one of the more frequent Haunting Hour actors. Same with Christopher Heyerdahl. He's only in this one episode as Fear, but man, does that man know how to act. He just gives it his all. Oh, this episode is so phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with it. I have no problems. Well, I guess I would like to see more Fear in the episode. I would have liked to see more of him, but other than that, everything about this episode is well done. The tone is great. The scares are great. The performances from the actors are great. It's just a great episode. I would give Fear Never Knocks a 10 out of 10. It is a perfect episode. I have no problems with it. I think it is truly a phenomenal episode. If you're going to watch The Haunting Hour, this is one episode you definitely need to consider watching. At least, if you're going to watch the show, this is probably one of them you want to watch, or you should watch, because it is one of the best in the series. But that's really it for my thoughts on this episode. I think it is just marvelous. It's super well done. Every time I watch it, I thoroughly enjoy it. And, yeah, I'm going to enjoy it for years to come. But the next one, which I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. The next episode is going to be Catching Cold, which is my third favorite episode of the series. So, yeah, please stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more Haunting Hour episode reviews, and I will see you in the next one. What do you think about the Haunting Hour? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know what you think of this episode and the others, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching this, and hope you take care. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you then. Have a great day.